Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing fantastic and staying nice and healthy at home. I want to very quickly go through with everybody just a little bit about your unit assessment for Unit 8. All right, so let's get started right away. No time to lose. As usual, you can find your Evaluación or your unit assessment inside of the folder for that unit. We're going to be talking about Unit 8, so I go to the Unit 8 folder. Give it 1 second to load. In there then, as always, you will see your Evaluación folder. If we go inside of there, you will see everything that you need for your unit assessment as always. Okay, you're going to see the top part here, which is your document, and then you're going to see this link here where you will be able to submit your videos. So let's go ahead and get into that document and start talking about what we're actually going to be working on here. So here is the document. As we wait patiently for Google to decide it wants to do what it's supposed to do. I know that as soon as I hit refresh, it's going to not load. All right, I'm going to take a quick pause while we wait for this to, oh, never mind. Sorry about this. Thank you for your patience. All right, so our Unit 8 assessment is Las Direcciones. We are working with our grammar for this unit, which is Los Mandatos de Tu, or two commands. This is an open individual assessment, and it is working with 4 of your standards in speaking, writing, grammar, and vocabulary. All right, so for this, you are going to be working with a map of La Mapa de Granada, which is not a real map. It is one that I have created about actual real city called Granada in Spain. You're going to write a set of directions, and then you are going to record yourself giving those directions to someone on a video on Flipgrid. So let's start first with what we actually need to do when we're writing our sentences. You're going to write your sentences here, and they are going to be based on this map, which I know is hard to see right now. Once you're actually looking at the document on your own, if you want to manipulate the map, shrink it so you can see it so it's right side up, you're welcome to do so. I wanted to leave it on here in its biggest format as possible. First thing you need to do is decide where you want to start and where you want to finish. You can start and finish wherever you want. Okay, this place here is called La Dulceria, which is a candy shop. We have La Estación de Policía, which is the police station. We have Los McDonald's here. We have La Iglesia, La Casa Perez, El Edificio de Juicio. Wherever you start, just make sure that you start at a landmark and you end at a landmark. And also make sure that you notice that there are multiples of something. So like here's an estación de tren or a metro station. Here is one too. So if you're doing one where there's multiple of the same thing, make sure you tell me exactly which one you are starting at. So that being said, let's go back up to the top. Here you're going to put your starting location. Here you are going to put your ending location. Then you're going to write your sentences in the space provided here with the translation down below. As we've talked about many times before, you are writing a translation just in case if for some reason I can't understand exactly what you're trying to tell me, then I reference those. So let's talk about what your sentences have to include. First things first, you need to have 10 sentences in Spanish with English translations. Each sentence must use a tu command or a mandato de tu, and you must be giving directions based on La Mapa de Granada, which you saw down below. Make sure you tell us where you're starting from and where you're ending from. Each of your sentences must also include vocabulary words from this unit, hence why your vocabulary words and your unit assessment go so well together. Okay? All right, here's what we have to have within our individual sentences. First, you must have at least 4 sentences using affirmative to commands. Then you must have 4 sentences using negative to commands. So that's 8 of your 10 sentences. Your other 2 sentences, you can choose whether you want to use affirmatives or negatives. Okay, you're like, Senora, using affirmative is easy, right? Go here, go there, turn left, turn right, right? But how do I do negative ones? Well, maybe say don't turn right, or don't turn left, or don't stop, or don't continue forward. Okay. Don't forget that on your vocab list, you have that list of verbs at the very end. Those verbs will be super helpful for you with this. Okay. So those are the sentence types. Next, you must have at least 5 verbs that are irregular in either the negative or to command, and you have to use that irregular form. So what do I mean by that? Okay, if you were to use the verb poner, for example, which means to put, right? Poner happens to be irregular as both a negative and affirmative to command, so you could use that for either one and it would count as an irregular. However, there are lots of verbs that are not in that same ballpark. And of course, now that I want to find one, I won't be able to think of one. Any cargar are verbs. So let's use tomar as our example. No, bad example. Sorry. Tocar as our example, okay? Tocar as an affirmative to command is regular, right? It means to touch or to play an instrument, right? So toca means play or touch. Versus if you use it in its negative form, it is then a spell changer, so it's no toques, Toques. Okay, that one, if you wanted to use it and count it as an irregular, you would actually have to use the negative command. If you use the affirmative command, it would be regular. So you need to make sure that if you're considering it an irregular, you're using the irregular form in your actual sentence. Okay, if you have any questions about that, let me know. Next, you may only use a verb one time in its affirmative and one time in its negative for 2 times total. So again, let's go back to poner. If you wanted to use poner and count it as an irregular, as both an affirmative and a negative, you could totally do that. Okay? You can only use, so technically you can use each verb twice, once as an affirmative and once as a negative, but no more than that. Each sentence must include a vocabulary word from Unit 8, and you can only use each one time and count it. So for example, if you use day in a sentence more than once, that's okay. Or N, sorry, not day. N in a sentence more than once, that's fine, but you can only count it as a vocabulary word one time. And then last but not least, your directions must go in sequential order so that someone could actually follow them. Okay, so for example, they would start at McDonald's, they would end at the church, and they could actually follow those directions sequentially. Last thing, and it's highlighted in pink. If you forget to do this, guys, these do not count. All of your vocabulary words must be underlined in your sentences so that way I know which vocabulary word you're using for each sentence. And finally, you must have your affirmative and negative to commands bolded. Last thing I do want to point out, ladies and gentlemen, if you are using a verb in these sentences, even if you're using it after you've already done your to command, you must put it in a command form. You should not have any verbs in these sentences that are not conjugated as commands, unless if they're being left in the infinitive because they follow one of the infinitive rules on your sentence writing rules. Okay, that is the information you need to know about your sentences. This is where you will write your sentences as usual. Here's for your translation. Last thing then we need to talk about here is the video. So next thing you are going to do then, once you have created your sentences, is you are going to record yourself giving those directions via a Flipgrid recording. Okay, we've used Flipgrid many times. You should all know how to use it very, very well by now. You are going to record yourself saying your 10 sentences using Flipgrid. You guys know already your videos can't be any longer than 5 minutes, but that should absolutely not be an issue. You're going to say all of your directions, all 10 sentences in Spanish. Do not include your English translations in your directions. Okay? You don't need them, and I don't want them in your video, just your Spanish directions. Make sure that you speak your directions in sequential order, so going from one to the next to the next. Finally, make sure you're using your good presentational skills, eye contact, voice volume, speed, and clarity. Last thing, and I know this is your very favorite thing, ladies and gentlemen, you must be speaking, not reading. So just like we did back in Unit 5, I should not see paper in your hands. I should not see you consistently looking down at your paper. If I see you reading, the highest score you can get in speaking, if your pronunciation is good enough to fall into a 3, is a 2.5. Don't do that to yourself. It's 10 sentences. These do not have to be super long sentences. Make sure that you're conveying what you need to, but do not be reading. Okay? I want to see your eyes looking up at the screen. Now, if you need to glance down to look at your paper a couple of times during that, okay, but I should not see you reading off of it. If I do, you know that I will know, and you know you will get docked on those points when I do eventually score this assessment. Okay, these are your directions, everything that you need to know for this unit. There is no rough draft for this unit assessment. This is all on your own, ladies and gentlemen. With that being said, if you have questions, please let me know. Also, make sure before you record your video, practice. Practice, ladies and gentlemen. You would not go into any other assessment without having practiced and studied ahead of time. Same thing with your video. Please, please practice. If you don't know how to pronounce something, look it up using word reference. You know that is the only appropriate tool to be using. If you come to a word and you're still not sure how to say it, let me know. I can easily send you a video of pronouncing something if you need me to. But please be using those different pieces of technology that you have. All right. Please let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, buena suerte. Have a great time.